Every time you swipe your credit card, check your bank balance, or take out a loan, you're touching a system controlled by one family. But here's what most people don't know. The Morgan Dynasty doesn't just own banks, they own the very foundation of American finance. With over $5 trillion in assets under their control, they make the Rothschilds look like a regional credit union. But here's the thing. This empire wasn't built by tech billionaires or oil barons. It was forged by a single man who turned financial chaos into absolute power. For over 150 years, the Morgan family has been the quiet architects of American capitalism, building an empire so vast, it's hard to wrap your head around. Their influence is woven into the very fabric of Wall Street, from the skyscrapers that define Manhattan to the digital transactions in your phone. We'll break down how this family survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and countless financial crises, all while making their fortune even bigger. This isn't just about money, it's about the hidden dynasty that literally owns the system. This isn't just a list, it's a blueprint for financial dominance, showing how old money continues to call the shots in a new world. So, let's get started and reveal the immense power this American dynasty holds. Chapter 1. The Foundation. Picture this. It's 1838, and America is facing its worst financial crisis yet. Banks are collapsing daily, businesses are shuttering, families are losing everything. But in the chaos, one man sees opportunity. The Morgan story isn't about inherited wealth or lucky oil strikes. It's about turning financial disasters into generational power. Junius Spencer Morgan, a humble dry goods merchant from Massachusetts, made a decision that would change American finance forever. While others fled the markets, he moved to London and partnered with George Peabody, one of the most respected bankers in the world. By 1854, when Peabody retired, Junius controlled the entire operation. He renamed it J.S. Morgan and Company and began financing American railroads from London. But his masterstroke was seeing what others missed. America was about to explode with growth, and whoever controlled the money flow would control the country. Despite his growing wealth, Junius lived by a strict code. No flashy displays, no newspaper interviews. The Morgan way was simple. Accumulate power, avoid attention, and always think 3 moves ahead. But Junius was just laying the foundation. The real empire would be built by his son, a man who would become the most powerful financier in American history. Chapter 2. The Empire Builder. Breaking into our main story, we meet the man who turned his father's respectable banking house into an unstoppable financial empire. John Pierpont Morgan, J.P. Morgan. He inherited more than money from his father. He inherited a philosophy: in times of crisis, be the solution. In 1871, when J.P. took control of the family business, America was in chaos. The Civil War had ended, but the economy was a mess. Railroads were going bankrupt. Steel companies were failing. The government was broke. J.P.'s genius was something called Morganization. When companies were failing, he wouldn't just lend them money, he would restructure them completely, install his own people on the boards, and create monopolies that couldn't fail. His first major victory came with the railroads. By 1900, J.P. Morgan controlled 2/3 of America's railroad mileage, but that was just the beginning. In 1901, J.P. pulled off the deal of the century. He bought out Andrew Carnegie's steel empire for $480 million, over $17 billion today, and created U.S. Steel, the world's first billion-dollar corporation. J.P.'s lifestyle reflected his status as America's financial king. His 343-foot yacht, the Corsair IV, was essentially a floating palace. His art collection rivaled European royalty, but his real power was invisible. A single meeting in his private library could save or destroy entire industries. When the stock market crashed in 1907, the United States had no Federal Reserve, so they called J.P. Morgan. From his library on East 36th Street, he essentially became America's central bank, deciding which companies lived and which died. J.P. Morgan had proven that one family could control an entire nation's economy. But when he died in 1913, many thought the empire would crumble. They were wrong. Chapter 3. The Modern Dynasty. Cracking our modern era, the Morgan Empire faced its greatest test. Could a financial dynasty survive world wars, the Great Depression, and the rise of government regulation? The answer came from JP's son, Jack Morgan. He transformed the family business from a 19th century powerhouse into a 20th century institution. When World War I erupted, Jack Morgan made a decision that would define the family's future. While European banks crumbled, Morgan became the financial lifeline for the Allied forces, lending over $3 billion to Britain and France. But Jack's real genius was adaptation. When the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933 forced banks to choose between commercial and investment banking, the Morgans made a brilliant move. They split into two entities, J.P. Morgan Chase for commercial banking, Morgan Stanley for investment banking. This wasn't a loss. It was multiplication. Now, the Morgan influence operated on two fronts, controlling both the everyday banking that regular Americans used and the high-stakes investment world that moved global markets. While other banks failed during the 1930s, the Morgan banks thrived. They had the cash reserves and the government connections to buy up failing competitors at pennies on the dollar. The family's wealth during this era was staggering. Jack Morgan's estate on Long Island sprawled across 1,000 acres. His art collection included works by Rembrandt and Vermeer. Yet, like his father, he maintained the family code, power through privacy. Then, in 1935, the family was hit by an unimaginable tragedy. Jack Morgan was shot by an assassin who blamed the family for the Depression. He survived, but the attack revealed something undeniable. The Morgan name had become synonymous with American financial power, and with it came all the hatred. The assassination attempt was a wake-up call. The family realized they needed to evolve, from visible titans to invisible puppet masters. Chapter 4: The Shadow Empire. And now, at our final chapter, we discover how the Morgan dynasty transformed, from 19th century robber barons into 21st century financial architects. The modern Morgan Empire operates differently than their ancestors. They don't need to own everything directly, they just need to control the flow of money itself. Today, JP Morgan Chase is the largest bank in America, with $3.7 trillion in assets. That's more than the GDP of Germany. Morgan Stanley manages another $1.4 trillion in client assets. Combined, the Morgan financial ecosystem touches nearly every major transaction in American economy. But here's where it gets interesting. The family doesn't need to own these banks outright anymore. Through strategic board positions, family trusts, and generational relationships, they maintain influence that goes far beyond stock ownership. Current family members, like Henry Morgan and his descendants, sit on boards of major corporations, cultural institutions, and philanthropic foundations. They've learned the ultimate lesson of old money. True power is invisible power. In the age of digital banking, the Morgan influence has only grown stronger. Every Venmo transfer, every Apple Pay transaction, every cryptocurrency exchange, it all flows through systems that trace back to Morgan infrastructure. The family's modern lifestyle reflects their evolution. Instead of massive yachts, they own private islands. Instead of public mansions, they have compounds hidden from satellite view. Their art collections are now housed in private museums that double as tax shelters. Looking ahead, the Morgan dynasty is meticulously planned. The current generation has been educated at Harvard, Oxford, and Wharton. They speak multiple languages, understand global markets, and are already positioned in key financial institutions worldwide. The Morgan story is proof that in America, financial power isn't just about having money. It's about controlling how money moves. From humble beginnings to a global empire, the Morgan legacy shows that the greatest fortunes aren't built on products or services, but on owning the system itself. You've seen how the Morgans grew stronger in every crisis. Would you dare to see how it all began? The secret foundation of their empire? Click here, and we'll meet again in the next video. See you later!